Either way, please turn off your TV and don't turn it back on until you pay for the damages caused.
Max Headroom hack. For those who don't know, Max Headroom was a fictional British AI character who was introduced in early 1985. He was dubbed the first computer-generated TV personality, even though the appearance was achieved with an actor in prosthetic makeup in front of a blue screen, so not really AI at all. He was known for his glitchy, indecipherable speech, with him being designed to replicate popular news broadcasters. Jumping forward 2 years to 1987, and someone dressed as Max Headroom interrupted two Chicago television channels, one during the 9 o'clock news on WGN-TV and the other during an episode of Doctor Who at 11 o'clock. During these two interruptions, the hacker rambled, seemingly replicating Max Headroom and his endorsement of New Coke and WGN anchor Chuck Swirsky, with the interruption concluding with the hacker exposing himself and being spanked with a fly swatter. The video then cut and things returned to normal. To this day, people have no idea who the hacker was or the reasoning behind the interruption, with no one ever being caught. Spooky stuff. It's actually really funny. And if I was going to interrupt a show, I would interrupt Doctor Who, cause it's shit. Before we jump into number 4, be sure to hit the like button, it really helps us out a lot. In at number 4, I feel fantastic. Now this video is just straight up creepy and confusing, and I don't know how to feel about it because I don't quite know what is going on. Essentially, the entire video follows an animatronic mannequin known as Tara the Android, who jerks her arms and moves around in a very strange manner while a song plays in the background with a lot of synth, repeating the lyric, "I feel fantastic." And I can tell you right now, this video does not make you feel fantastic, it makes you feel very uncomfortable. Now things remain the same until we cut to a shot of the outside, whether it be the woods or someone's backyard, we have no idea. But then we return inside and the song begins to change, with it now repeating the lyrics, "Please leave" and "Run, run, run, run." Creepy. Now there isn't much legitimate information about the video, but people did begin to accuse the uploader of murder, with rumors swirling that he committed a crime in the outdoor shot of the video, and Tara the android was wearing the victim's clothes. Viewers are of course torn about the video though, with some believing that the video is offering up clues to the fate of the real Tara, whoever that may be, but ultimately we may never know what this video truly means, nor do I care to learn. In at number 3, Sad Satan. Sad Satan is truly a disturbing video that the more you watch makes less and less sense, and instead creates a feeling of uneasiness and dread. Uploaded back in 2015 by YouTube channel Obscure Horror Corner, Sad Satan was said to have originated off of the dark web and was supposedly a game named after the Led Zeppelin song Stairway to Heaven. Backstory: around the time the song was released, many religious groups came forward stating that the song was hiding subliminal messages praising the devil, and that if you played the song backwards it would be revealed. Back to the game though, if we can really call it that, considering there isn't much playability to it whatsoever. It's more so an experience, an incredibly trippy and disturbing experience at that. You essentially make your way through a series of dark and eerie passageways as images flash on your screen from Jimmy Savile to Rolf Harris, two TV presenters in the UK who were found guilty of abuse. And that's all I can say in order for this video to go up. Due to this discovery, many have questions about the game and its true intentions. On top of that, there also exists another version of Sad Satan. However, the second version is much darker and contains many illegal images and viruses. Where it originally came from, folks still don't know. However, many have begun to question whether it in fact did hail from the dark web, or whether Obscure Horror Corner exaggerated these claims. In at number 2, the Elisa Lam footage. This is a video that still haunts the internet, simply because we have no answers to what actually happened to Elisa Lam in February of 2013. Elisa Lam was a Canadian student from the University of British Columbia who was discovered dead in a water tank atop the Cecil Hotel in Los Angeles on February 19, 2013. She had been reported missing at the beginning of the month, with police investigating and even releasing elevator footage from inside of the hotel of Elisa. The footage itself is what is most concerning, as Elisa was acting very strange. She appears to enter and exit the elevator a number of times, pressing different buttons with the doors refusing to close. She tries again, but nothing. She appears to be distressed throughout the video, even pressing her palms over her ears, rubbing her arms and pressing herself up against the back of the elevator. It's all very strange. Now, on the morning of the 19th of February, many guests at the Cecil Hotel began to complain of poor water pressure and a strange taste, and that was when authorities discovered Lamb's body inside of the hotel's water tank. The peculiar thing is that her death was deemed an accident, with there being no signs of foul play. Despite the investigation being closed, many people returned to this creepy video, believing that there was more at play than just accidental death. Perhaps someone or something else was involved. What are your thoughts though? And finally, coming in at number 1, blank room soup. Thought to have originated from the deep web, this disturbing and baffling video uploaded back in 2008 is one that is incredibly hard to explain. It begins with a man with blacked out eyes sitting at a table eating a bowl of cereal with a giant wooden spoon, and then from behind him appears a man in all black wearing a giant head. He approaches the man at the table and begins stroking his head, almost trying to comfort him. A second man with the giant head also appears and does the same thing, with both men comforting the man eating cereal, who also appears to be crying. It's all very odd and nothing quite makes sense. It sort of appears like a hostage situation, but the heads are by far the scariest part. Now, when it was first uploaded back in 2008, the video was taken simply as a joke and no one thought much of it. However, years have passed and no one has stepped forward to take credit for the video, which has added a sense of fear and mystery around it. Now, some backstory. The video was initially sent to Raymond Percy, as the characters in the video were his creation that he used in a show he did called Sunset Club. The costumes were stolen from a parked car, and not long after he received this video, meaning the people who stole the outfits must be the people in the video. Some theories have been floating around the internet as to what is going on, with some saying the man is being forced to eat human remains, while others speculate that he is about to die, which is why he is crying. Either way, we'll never know, as no one has yet to claim the video.
Number 5, red rooms. I'm just gonna start this off by getting the obvious out of the way. This has nothing to do with the 50 Shades trilogy, so don't bother asking about that icky series that barely knows the truth about anything schmexy. Among the many illicit activities that take place on the dark web, one of the most disturbing is the existence of red rooms. So these rooms have gained a lot of attention and infamy, with many rumors and myths circulating about their existence and operation. While some people believe that red rooms are nothing more than urban legends, others claim to have witnessed them firsthand. So in fact, on Reddit, 4chan, and Hidden Wiki, a kind of, cliff notes for dark web beginners, you can find people trading second and third and fourth hand accounts of red rooms that have opened and closed. The concept of red rooms first apparently appeared on the dark web sometime in the early 2010s, and their name derives from the color of the room where the supposed acts take place. The term red room gained popularity after a Japanese animation featured a pop-up ad asking, "Do you like the red room?" And if users attempted to close the ad, a full-sized window would open with the names of individuals who had supposedly accessed the red room before and were found dead. The idea is that viewers pay to watch a live stream of a person being tormented and eventually killed, and they can even interact with the tormentor and other viewers through chat or messaging functions. Payments for these services are made in cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin to ensure, anonymity. Despite the attention that red rooms have received, it's kind of challenging to determine whether they actually exist or not. But here's the thing, accessing them is not as difficult as one might expect. A simple Google search for redroom.onion, that link can yield results for these supposedly hidden pages. In addition, the technical limitations of the dark web make it almost impossible to stream live video, and payment analyses suggest that there are very few people actually paying for these services. Some people claim to have accessed them and seen the gruesome acts taking place, while others insist that they are nothing more than hoaxes designed to scare people. There have been no verified cases of people being killed in real time on the dark web, and many experts believe that the concept of red rooms is more of a fantasy than a reality. One reason why it's so challenging to verify the existence of these red rooms is because the dark web is notoriously difficult to navigate and monitor. It's impossible to search for specific websites on the dark web using traditional search engines like Google or Bing, and accessing dark web sites requires specialized software like Tor or I2P. Furthermore, many dark websites use encryption and other security measures to protect their users' identities and activities, making it pretty challenging to track or trace them. However, there have been some instances where law enforcement agencies have claimed to have shut down red rooms or arrested their operators. In 2015, the FBI arrested a man named Peter Scully in the Philippines who was accused of running a red room called Daisy's Destruction. The site was said to feature videos of Scully harming young people, and it was allegedly one of the most extreme examples of a red room ever discovered. Scully was eventually convinced of multiple crimes, including, young people sexual harm, human selling, and killing. Internet users continue to seek out the elusive and horrifying red rooms on sites like Reddit and 4chan, despite many claims that, it's nothing more than an urban legend. But let me know your take in the comments. Honestly, I believe they're out there, but I've also watched way too many crime chose for my own good. Number 4. What's for sale? I have wandered many an oddities market in my time. And heck, I've even performed an act at one that would make most people flinch. I've seen folks selling real and fake bones, demonic dolls, niche, schmexy fine leather goods, vintage clothes, tarot readings, banned books, World War II memorabilia, and oddities I can't even begin to describe. And heck, that's just the stuff like I can remember off the top of my head. So, what does the dark web have that I can't find in a niche marketplace? Oh, the no-no pills and powders. Sadly, I don't think I'm allowed to say the D word on here, so pardon me if things take a turn for the Looney Tunes way of speaking for safety's sake. I found plenty of tales on the interwebs about the crafty ways folks have been mailed their purchases. User OyRaves on Reddit is adamant that while he personally never received anything from any deep web affiliated sales folk, he did live with a roommate who would constantly receive the strangest brochures. At first, they received stuff for like cruise lines, which he wrote off as junk mail, but they came so frequently and started getting stranger, making him suspicious. For folks like me who might be wondering how pamphlets can get strange, apparently the mail ranged from, Christian Mingle brochures to petting zoo brochures, pretty much, any kind of pamphlet for any and all services one could think of. At the time, our narrator kind of felt like someone was gaslighting him, but he never said anything, and the brochures would disappear as quickly as they came, so he didn't really have time to stress it. That is until one fateful day when he walked into his apartment and his roommate was delicately cutting into a brochure to mull out a small baggie of powder. All I'm gonna say is that it definitely wasn't flour or icing sugar. Now, one time our narrator almost threw out a regular sized business envelope since after he opened it up, it looked similar to regular silly junk mail, until he noticed that the envelope had a hidden flap on the inside where there was, no things. Other transportation or delivery methods known to the dark webs include using a comic book that's still in the plastic sealing, but the entire back page directly inside the cover was a sheet of acid, or a CD in a case, once again, with the plastic sealed, and it looked totally ordinary until you peeled back the case artwork. In terms of how some folks get away with powders, pills, and other stuff, apparently the trick is to use collectible Pez dispensers already filled with pills that look like, yep, they've never been opened. Funny story actually about white powder. One time I was doing a virtual script reading of the incredible movie Ready or Not, and had to mime using powder of my own, and I actually wound up inhaling way too much icing sugar up my nose, and oh my god, did it ever burn. Thankfully, I was off screen after it for a while, so I was able to recover in private, but it will be a permanent memory for the rest of my life. Number 3, hire a hitman. Alrighty, so this is where things get a little more into the legend part of today's video. One of the greatest myths about the dark web is that you can hire an assassin, with some folks saying that kind of service costs as little as, $5 grand. Just a couple of months of rent. We all have that kind of money lying around, right? In this economy? Here's the thing, officially speaking, technically no dark web search records were ever found of an actual hit attempt or assassin operating there. Now, I'm not saying it's never happened, since I don't exactly have the time or expertise to go deep diving for a week, to try to find a legitimate person selling those types of services, but what was found by experts? So a network of dark web websites and individuals who accepted Bitcoin in exchange for absolutely nothing at all. I get using Bitcoin for secrecy and all, but trust me when I say you'll never catch me using it as a form of payment. If I ever start talking about cryptocurrency on social media, assume I've been hacked or kidnapped. Scammers out there are relying on the veil of mystery that the dark web has provided, whereas in reality, more injuries and killings happen through Craigslist and similar websites that are widely available on the surface web. It took me a moment to research that one, but yep, people have actually hired hitmen off of Craigslist for crimes. Granted, it never seems to end like they want it, so I wouldn't really recommend it. Also, leaving a digital trail is always a mistake if you want to do something naughty. No, I'm not speaking from experience, just common sense. Number 2, Silk Road. Silk Road was an online black market and the first modern darknet market that was launched back in 2011 by its American founder, Ross Ulbricht, under the pseudonym Dread Pirate Roberts. Hey look, I love a good reference to The Princess Bride, so that got me. The name Silk Road comes from a historical network of trade routes that were started during the Han Dynasty between Europe, India, China, and many other countries on the Afro-Eurasian landmass. 2 other individuals were also closely involved in the site's growth and success, known as Variety Jones and Smedley. In June of 2011, Gawker published an article about the site, which led to an increase in notoriety and website traffic. As part of the dark web, Silk Road operated as a hidden service on the Tor network, allowing users to buy and sell products and services between each other anonymously. To give you an idea of just how widespread it was, a former FBI special agent called it the Amazon of illicit substance sites. According to reliable sources, on Silk Road, you could buy no-no substances, illegal services, like hacking into private accounts, pirated content, fake passports, and more. All transactions were conducted with Bitcoin, which, I guess it does help with protecting user identities, but yeesh. The website was known for its illegal substance marketplace, among other illegal and legal product listings. Between February of 2011 and July of 2013, the site facilitated sales amounting to around 9 million bitcoins. In May of 2013, Silk Road was taken down for a short period of time by a sustained DDoS attack. On June 23rd of 2013, it was first reported that the DEA seized 11.02 bitcoins, then worth a total of $814, which the media suspected was a result of a Silk Road honeypot sting. The FBI has claimed that the real IP address of the Silk Road server was found via data leaked directly from the site's CAPTCHA and was located in Iceland. IT security experts have doubted the FBI's claims because technical evidence suggests that no misconfiguration that could cause a specific leak was present at the time, but in October of 2013, the FBI shut down Silk Road and arrested Ross. Silk Road 2.0 came online the next month, run by former site administrators, but was shut down the following year as a part of Operation Onimus. Number 1. Mariana's Web. Already, not to be confused with Matt Webb, the fantastic guitarist from Mariana's Trench, one of my favorite bands, because goodness knows that could be an easy mistake. The legend of Mariana's Web appears to get its name from the deepest part of the ocean though, Mariana's Trench. It's apparently the deepest part of the dark web, a forbidden place of mysterious evil. Maybe. Depending on where you get your Mariana's Web myths, it's where you'll find the darkest secrets humanity has in its history. The secret location of Atlantis and the Vatican secret archives, or a database of archives belonging to the most powerful intelligence agencies on Earth. Now, if any of those titles sound familiar, I would recommend checking out some of the other content we put out here, since that's the type of stuff I like to talk about. But here's the thing. Mariana's Web is the definition of spooky BS, especially because it's technically impossible. It's supposedly only accessible through quantum computers, which really only exist in science fiction. This is once again where the legend part of today's title comes into play. But let me know in the comments if you think it exists, since honestly I wish it would. It would make my life a heck of a lot easier if I could hack into the Vatican archives and get the answers we all deserve. And that brings us to the end of our time, and I'm good with sticking to what's known as the surface web, thank you very much. Unless someone out there is holding a way for me to play my old CD-ROMs properly on my laptop, then I'll venture deeper to experience the joy of Carmen Sandiego and Candyland once more.
Number 5. The Human Experiments. Now, one of the more infamous stories that has come out of the dark web is the Human Experiments. Now, that name alone should already tell you this is not going to be a fun one. I can't think of any fun human experiments. The site was active for a while, but possibly thankfully, seems to have gone dark around 2011. The Human Experiments refers to a website where a group of anonymous doctors, medical students, and so on practice their own brand of medicine. And if the website's header is to be believed, they hope to prove that not all humans are equal, for some of them were born superior to others. So who's behind it? Government black ops, super soldier project? Freelance doctors looking to practice on their own time? An incredibly convoluted and overly complicated hoax? Could not tell you. Probably for the best. I don't really know if I want to know. They say that their clientele mostly consisted of the homeless population, presumably not to arouse too much suspicion. Now, their experiments range from all sorts of dealings. Some on the website listed are starvation and water fluid restriction, vivisection and pain tolerances, infectious diseases and organ effects, transfusions, drug trials, sterilizations, and I'm sure some more that aren't listed. I feel like I'm reading off the side effects for a drug commercial. Apparently, if any of their test subjects don't survive their experiments, the bodies would be dissected for further study and dumped discreetly in dumpsters around the city. Now, like most dark web stories out there, there's obviously a fair bit of scrutiny, with some people suspecting this might be a very elaborate, grisly hoax. Why someone would go to this much effort to fake something that most people aren't even going to see, I'm not sure. However, one reporter noted that the test data on the website of the hypothermia and bleach injection experiments are eerily convincing. So either it's a fake and someone did their homework, or I don't really want to think about it. And hey, if you're just looking for really good scary stories, you don't gotta go any further than where you are right now. Just hit subscribe and we'll get you a scary video or two every single day. Let's keep going. Number 4, the Red Rooms. One of the most reoccurring dark web urban legends as well is that of the Red Rooms. What is a Red Room, you ask? Well, it refers to an alleged secret streaming service or website where viewers can pay massive sums of money, usually cryptocurrency, to watch live streams of the darkest things imaginable to the human psyche, being able to make special requests for what they'd like to see. Much like the VIPs from Netflix's Squid Game, if you watched that, and I'm sure most of you did, who all traveled to that mysterious island to pay to watch the games up close and personal, this is allegedly that on a much smaller, personal scale, where you wouldn't even have to dress up in an ornate animal mask and fly out to South Korea. Now, it's worth noting that there's some discrepancy as to whether or not these horrifying red rooms really exist or if it's an exaggerated story, like a digital campfire legend. The browser used to access deep and dark web content is too slow to run a live stream properly, and alternative browsers struggle as well as they run their traffic through multiple services. That's not to rule it out entirely. The web beneath the surface is a wild wasteland, and there have been deeply disturbing real stories from the dark web of criminals charging for pay-per-view videos of dark acts. So who's to say? I'm not about to crawl through the dark web anytime soon to find out. Number 3. Swatting. Now for those of us who aren't on the internet as much, maybe you aren't super familiar with this term swatting. It has nothing to do with flies, but instead refers to the practice of obtaining a victim's IP address and then anonymously or falsely reporting serious criminal activity at the location, such as a bomb threat, hostage situation, or any other number of things that would necessitate the boys in blue packing up, getting in the van, and kicking down your door. The SWAT team shows up, kicks the front door down, ready to go, and tragically, more often than not, it ends poorly. And it happens to be a huge trend. It's even happened to celebrities like Justin Bieber and Rihanna. One of the biggest targets is gamers and streamers getting locked in vicious rivalries. Well, like many other illegal services, swatting is allegedly something you can buy through the dark web. Worried about the consequences? Don't want to spend money on an expensive trial for going to jail? Well, apparently you can hire someone to SWAT for you. One alleged website offers tiers of service ranging from mild situations to a little worse. They'll bring many people and raid them, all the way to the lofty, the SWAT team comes and from there they'll do anything. Now despite huge sentences for swatting, up to 25 years to life by the way, in case you're wondering, it's still a fairly common occurrence. Disposable phones, encrypted phone numbers, and even Skype have all been tools for the would-be swatter. As such, various law enforcement agencies across the United States have been trying to crack down on the practice as much as they can in order to dispel any would-be swatters from getting any bright ideas and to dispel any more tragedies from occurring. Number 2, bed bugs. This one is really out there, but I'm gonna be honest, it's the ones that are really out there that are the ones I'm most interested in, of course. I want to bring you the stuff you probably haven't seen in any other top 5 videos, and this was too good to pass up. On a Reddit thread asking plainly, what's your dark web story? We had this from user UrbanHawk1, who said that in his time on the dark web, he saw all manner of nefarious business, but none that truly stuck out to him more, none that was stranger than one man who was trying to acquire a massive amount of bed bugs shipped to his home. Naturally, people on the marketplace website were a bit curious. Other users on the unknown website wanted to know why exactly you'd invite that sort of thing into your home. Most of us want that out. Well, the bug collector was looking to, and paraphrasing the original Redditor's words, he wanted to try to breed bed bugs to be resistant to all the usual manner of extermination, while simultaneously breeding in a weakness that would remain secret to only him. From here, he would then unleash his genetically superior bed bugs onto the unsuspecting population, who would then have to pay him to have it dealt with since he was the only one who knew their weakness. Now if this one is sounding just a tiny bit comic booky to you, that's because similar schemes were also the plot of the villains of the Amazing Spider-Man movie and the Michael Bay Ninja Turtles. Now unfortunately there's no follow-up to this. I couldn't really find a second source on this anywhere, and Urban Hawk's story is the only time I ever saw this particular anecdote mentioned, but it was too interesting to pass up. You have to wonder, maybe Urban Hawk, the guy who posted about it, maybe he was the bedbug mastermind looking to see if there was any interest in the business. We may never know, but I'm definitely feeling itchy just talking about it. And number 1, we see you. Our next story comes to us from a Reddit user going by the handle FakeFakington. So, all that being said, maybe just take whatever he says with a grain of salt if that's how he chooses to advertise. Making matters more confusing, he does list his real name on his Reddit account as Truth Realtime, so who's to say? Now TruthFakington, Fake Truth, he recounts the story of the early days of the dark web, when everything was still very deep and dark. Back in the day, Fakey Truthy was browsing random links, just like us kids today still do. He describes a lot of it as not particularly interesting, until he found sort of an early blog, describing random thoughts, musings, and so on. But he said they felt a bit like someone was trying to pass secret notes to each other. So, curious, he wanted to know more about what he was reading, and he compiled the IPs from the various messages and writings to try and get a better understanding about what he had found. Now he said he made his way through a digital rabbit hole, to find himself in a collection of medical records. The sort of thing that a psychologist or a therapist might keep, perhaps. The images were mostly of faxes and predominantly medical, but also military in nature too. As he was browsing through all of the files he had just uncovered, he noticed a new one had uploaded as he was browsing through them. The timestamp on the upload listing the exact minute he was browsing. The message was named, spine-chillingly, "Hello there. Infinitely braver than I would be." Mr. Fake Truthington opened up the file and saw that it was nothing but plain text that read out, "We see you." And about 15 seconds later, the server dropped altogether. Now, Fake Fakington is still around today. He's still an avid Redditor and tech head and was able to bring us this story, but no doubt that one little incident probably kept him awake for a few nights and probably kept him away from the dark web for a bit. I know I would.
Number 5, the disappearing fiance. I wanted to start off on a real juicy one. Okay, so this story was posted in an unresolved mysteries thread from 2018, and it's quite fun. Matus Kowecki, a 30-year-old man from a small village in Poland named Hutkow, received a call that he was going to be a father. That's wonderful, it's right, his fiance was going into labor. So as you can imagine, that's a very nice phone call to have. So right after work, he set out at about 11:30 at night to be there. The trip was about a 650-kilometer drive, so it would take a little while. They've been doing the whole long distance thing because he works in Hanover, Germany with his father, and his fiance lives in Lipia Gora, Poland. So he could have got there at like 8 or 9 a.m. Well, he should have, rather. And now things get a little messed. According to his father, when he talked to him on the phone, he said there was a lot of traffic and he was stressing out a bit, as one could imagine. So he finally sends a text message to his wife saying that he'll be there in 2 hours, which is always awesome. Like, yo, I love when people give me a heads up when they're arriving. If you're the type to just show up without sending a 10-minute warning, shame on you. Shame. Shame, Game of Thrones watchers, there you go. So 2 hours away, got it? He doesn't show up. Yikes. So his fiance calls Matus's sister. Nobody was getting through to this guy. The phone was ringing, by the way. It wasn't dead and going straight to voicemail. It was ringing through. So Matus's mom suggests filing a police report, and hours later they all agree, you know what, it's probably time. So they report him missing in both Poland and Germany because he was right in the middle. He came from one to the other. They have no idea where he could have gone in that frame. So days go by and they finally try locating his phone's, location. It's a bust. The Matus family begin to search for him themselves. And they check his entire route. I'm talking shops, gas stations, even putting up photos and flyers of him around town. Cut to 6 entire months go by. Holy September 10th, the family gets a knock on the door. Their neighbor is concerned about a foul smell coming from the Matus family barn. So they check it out, and hidden in the attic part, like up tucked behind, was Matus's body, with his head not attached. So it's been 6 months since his body was missing, so it was at a point where you couldn't even necessarily identify the body. But his bag was there with all his belongings, and the police considered it suicide and they returned his property back to the family. Then 4 days later, yeah, this isn't done yet, 4 days later they find his shoe with his foot still inside of it. So they start questioning why this wasn't brought up in the autopsy. I mean, yo, it's a shoe with a foot. This should have been known. And also, his head even had the teeth knocked out, or they'd fallen out, one of the two. Either way, the teeth was stuck on his bloody sweater. And to this day, they haven't been able to find the car. The family even said it's impossible not to notice this guy's body hanging in their barn all summer. There's just no way. That plus the fact that police didn't really try or give a damn for the entire search. There's a lot of weird stuff going on in this one. I'll be sure to keep my eye on it. Number 4, Tattletale from the Afterlife. Okay, this next one comes from a ghost stories thread, and I personally love ghost stories. They always send a chill down my spine, and this next one makes no exception. This comes from user I've Gotten Identity Mad, solid name. Bit of a sad start, but his older sister had passed away when she was just 5 years old, a year before he was actually born. And he says his mom, to this day, is still attached to her spiritually. He even says that he has more stories like this to share, which I will keep an eye out. So yes, I will check those out, sir. So, when he was in his 20s, he had taken up smoking, like all the cool kids do. Kidding, don't smoke. And then one day his mom cornered him in the kitchen, asking him about his smoking habit, and he said no, lying. And the mom explains that Tina, the late 5-year-old sister who had passed away, told her about him smoking in her dream. Okay, and she even referred to it as wacky backy. She didn't call it like cigarettes, she said what a 5-year-old would say. Wacky backy, I guess 5-year-olds say that. Which sounds way cooler, by the way. Hey boss, be back in 5, going out to get some wacky backy. I don't know. So he lied and she believed him. Cut to, a few days later at 4 a.m., his mom bursts into his room and says that Tina had returned in her dream, lied about smoking the tacky wacky backy. So he finally admitted to it, and the two hashed it out and came across a mutual understanding of this nasty habit. So yeah, my dead sister rats me out sometimes, he concludes. What do you guys think? Would you ever be as chill as this guy is? I mean, I would never get used to that. If I was sitting at home like, oh man, has anyone seen my charger? Then my mom's like, 1 sec, let me ask Tina. She says check the living room. No way, I fold. I'd be out of there so fast. What would you guys do? Let us know in the comments, I'm curious. Number 3, imaginary Betty. We go back to 2013 where a recently divorced couple shares custody with their only daughter. She goes back and forth, and whenever she's at her dad's, she always talks to this imaginary friend named Betty. First of all, I never had an imaginary friend, but I know a lot of people who did growing up, and all of their stories, all of them sound creepy. Did you guys have one? How common is this thing? Anywho, what I'm trying to say is the name Betty already sounds like an old ghost. It already sounds creepy. Whenever I hear the name Betty, I always think of like, you know, a nice Aunt Betty. So one day the daughter was seen by her father talking to this imaginary friend Betty in her closet. So creepy. She even refers to Betty as another younger girl. The dad goes on to admit that he's not very good at showing his daughter how to do stuff with her hair. He's a dude. He's like, yeah, I just put a hat on and go to work. I don't know what to tell you. So her mom does her hair mostly. So after one night at her dad's, her mom picks her up the next morning to see that she has 2 perfect French braids, which are not easy to do. And the mom was super impressed. She's like, wow, way to go, you did this for her? Look at you, you're learning. The father admits he had nothing to do with it, although he wished he did. The daughter says that Betty was the one who did her hair the previous night. So the dad broke the contract with the rental agreement on the house and moved out within months. Yeah, of course. I wouldn't even pack my bags, dude. I would just be gone. You wouldn't see me. Hey, you and Betty keep the house. It's all yours. I'm out of here. I'm going to Vermont. I don't know. Anywhere. Bye. Number 2, the ghost conversation. Okay, this one's pretty fresh. It was posted to Reddit only 7 months ago in also a ghost stories thread. The user post says that when he was only 13 years old, his brother, who was 18 at the time, and him got hit by a drunk driver. His older brother was driving the car at the time and he was in the passenger seat. So he woke up 4 days later in the hospital with his brother next to him, giving him words of encouragement, telling him to get stronger, rest up, you know, you got it, just relax. And then the next day his parents had arrived to see how he was doing. So he immediately questioned why his brother wasn't there with him. I mean, he just saw them the night before. And when he asked them, they exchanged a look of concern and then just told him to get rest. That night his brother again returned to his side. He answered very vague questions and even asked him why he was wearing the same clothes as the previous visit. He said that was very unlike his older brother to wear the same clothes twice in a row. He likes to change it up. Keep it fresh. I get it. So the parents came to visit and finally the guy said, hey, can you guys all visit me at the same time? Like, this is weird. What's going on? With the parents visiting one day, then the brother visiting at night, it's kind of confusing. He even got frustrated and asked why Andy, his brother, only visits at night when he's half asleep and he can't even communicate fully. The parents finally explained to him that Andy had died the night of the accident. So you could imagine the shock. He said he started to freak out and explain how this just wasn't possible, period. So much so that they actually needed to sedate him just to go back to sleep and rest. Cut to years later, his fiance, who had never seen any photos of Andy, she had an experience with him and even described the same clothes he was wearing that night. This is so creepy. First of all, that's really sad. Don't drink and drive like a dumbass. Secondly, if I was in his shoes, I would never be able to sleep. Or maybe I'd find comfort from it. Either way, I don't want to find out. Number 1, roadblock. There's nothing like leaving a project till last minute. We all do it. I mean, I remember telling my parents I needed construction paper on Sunday at like 8 p.m. Right as they were about to watch Survivor, all tucked in. I'm like, yeah, surprise, I'm the worst. Let's go shopping. This last story takes that moment and makes it far, far, far worse. This was found under a creepy story thread, so the guy who posted the story says this all happened, and it happened apparently to a lot of people in that area. Alright, so it's Sunday night about 6 p.m. This guy gets in his car and drives about 6 miles out of town to his classmate's house. They had some project that was due, they had to flesh it out, whatever, it takes 3 hours. The road there is long and narrow and riddled with potholes, so he took it nice and slow and safe. He gets there, they get the project done, bam bam, about 11 p.m. rolls around, and he decides he's gotta go. So he gets back in his car and heads down the dark 6-mile road. And as he was driving back, he noticed a pickup truck with a camper on top of it. But this truck wasn't parked on the side of the road. It wasn't like a flat tire situation. It was just sitting there sideways, right in the way. and apparently there was a dude just sitting in the driver's seat with his head down against the steering wheel. First of all, what would you have done in this moment? A truck parked sideways, so much so that you had to go around. In that case, you'd end up just in a ditch. I don't know, I feel like I'd get out and take a look personally, but our user didn't, luckily. So we saw this truck and he heard about how some people would do this as a ploy to rob others, so he decided, I'm just gonna turn around, get out of here. So in the middle of his 3-point turn, which was now turning into a 6-point turn because of the narrow road, he looks back and he sees the driver is no longer sitting there. Oh, and the driver is now walking towards his car at a quick pace, while a few other guys hopped out of the back of the truck and started joining him. Oh, again. As if this wasn't bad enough, the driver started to pull on the door handle while he was reversing. Luckily, it was locked, so they didn't get in. Could you imagine? Jesus. He described the robber's face as very dark, leathery, and bruised almost. Kind of like he was wearing a mask in a way. Not the healthiest lad. So he guns it back to his friend's house and they both call the cops. The cops said they heard about this happening a couple times in the area, but not to that extent. So much so that people hop out of the car and try and open it? That's crazy. The friend's parents were nice enough to let the shaken up friend stay the night. He says he still gets adrenaline to this day thinking about it. Yeah, I can imagine, dude. That's so spooky. The fact that these guys were just gonna rob whoever happened to roll around that night, that's just twisted. Plus, I'd be a little nervous too if I was this kid's friend's parents. No way, I don't want you parking in front of our house all night while you stay. What if these hillbillies are out for trouble? What if they're looking for you? No way. Park in the neighbor's driveway for good measure. See the neighbors? Just park there and then we'll come over and then you can sleep here. Done.
Coming in at number 4, what's in my Red Bull? We all know that energy drinks are often under fire for including artificial stimulants. They'll rot your brain, teeth, gut, and hardwood flooring, or so I've been told. Remember that lady who had the whole science fair presentation on why Monster Energy drink is actually the mark of the devil? 666? Good times. Well, if you wanted to scare the crap out of vegans, cowboys, and generally anybody who doesn't want to unknowingly ingest reproductive fluids, you could tell them about this urban legend. Somehow, the rumor that Red Bull includes bull semen in their beverages took off. You see, Red Bull has taurine. This is an organic acid which is actually often found in infant milk formulas. If we dive a little deeper into this word, taurine, we'll find a couple of things. 1, taur is a Greek or Latin root for bull. Still with me? The second half, ine, something derived from a bull, eh? Understandably, people thought of this and immediately came to the conclusion that taurine is something made by a bull, which is actually supported by the fact that it was originally isolated from ox bile. Although these days we know that it's found in many more animals, including humans. But back to the stuff made from bulls, people heard taurine and then saw that big red bull on the front of the can and thought, geez, what are they taking from bulls? This stuff that gives you energy? Makes you feel alive? Are the good folks at Red Bull feeding us vital essence from bulls? Ew. Once this conclusion was made, it spread like wildfire. In fact, it became such a popular theory that Red Bull had to address it on their website. If you visit it and look at the FAQ, you can find a Q&A pertaining to the idea of testicles in your drink. Q. Is taurine made from bull's testicles? Is taurine a derivative of bull's testicles or semen? A. The taurine in Red Bull energy drink is a purely synthetic substance produced by pharmaceutical companies and is not derived from animals or animal materials. All ingredients for Red Bull energy drinks are synthetically produced by pharmaceutical companies. This guarantees the highest quality. So there you have it. No need to worry about any funny business in your Red Bull. Just try not to drink too much in celebration. Coming in at number 3, we have HIV oranges. On the topic of unwanted bodily fluids in our foods and beverages, let's consider the curious case of the contaminated citrus. In February of 2015, somebody posted an image of sliced oranges on Facebook. The oranges had little bits of red coloration in them, and they were not blood oranges. Or were they? According to the poster, the oranges had come from Libya and were seized in Algeria on the grounds that they had been injected with HIV-positive blood. The post read, "The immigration services of Algeria recovered a large quantity of these oranges coming from Libya. These oranges were injected with positive tested HIV and AIDS blood. Please share this message and warn people of the dangers involved." I mean, if the wording of that message doesn't convince you someone put their blood in oranges, I don't know what will. The image was found all over the place after that, with people either being really skeptical of the bloody fruit or having absolute freak-out meltdowns. Regardless of the reaction, there's no real threat here. Firstly, it's obviously a hoax based on the baselessness of the claims and the lack of official language in the original post. Somebody just decided that oranges coming from Africa must have some sort of HIV risk involved, as weird xenophobic people tend to do. Secondly, there is no threat of HIV transfer either way. HIV can't be transferred via fruit. The rare cases where HIV has been transferred via foods happens when food is pre-chewed by an HIV-infected caregiver. And these oranges, not pre-chewed. You can't get HIV from consuming food handled by an HIV-positive person. Even if it did contain small amounts of blood, which it likely doesn't, the virus would be destroyed by exposure to air, heat, or stomach acid. And who would put blood in an entire shipment's worth of oranges anyways? Coming in at number 2, we have Obamacare microchips. What a fun pairing of words, am I right? Back when Obamacare was first being introduced, people spread rumors that US residents would be required to be implanted with RFID microchips. Because, you know, Obama, I guess. But rumors of Big Brother wanting you riddled with tracking devices have been around since that kind of technology was first dreamed up. Folks are always worried that the government's going to tie them down and staple a blinking sensor into your spine or something. The Obamacare microchip legend began with some real documentation though. However, there were two things wrong with the rumor. One, it was taken from an outdated piece of tabled legislation that never passed, and two, the legislation they were looking at was misread and misinterpreted. See, someone pulled the phrase, "this sort of device be implanted in the majority of people who opt to become covered by the public healthcare option" out of some healthcare legislation in 2010. This particular passage was used as damning evidence that Obama wanted to track every citizen come hell or high water. However, this sentence was from an earlier version of legislation that wasn't passed by Congress. And if you're worried that Congress attempted to pass some bills that mandated microchips for every American, fret not. It was actually referring to a healthcare registry that would allow the Department of Health and Human Services to collect data about medical devices like pacemakers and hip replacements. It was meant to help track effectiveness and facilitate the distribution of manufacturer recall notices. No microchips necessary. It makes sense that people are scared of having their every move tracked though. There's something ironic about that crowd sharing these theories on Facebook for iOS though. And finally at number 1, Charlie Charlie. A sort of modernized Bloody Mary, Charlie Charlie was a spirit summoning game for the online era. In 2015, the Charlie Charlie Challenge blew up. Videos of kids putting 2 pencils on a piece of paper labeled yes and no were everywhere. Apparently, if done correctly, you could get a demon or ghost to answer simple questions. The origins of said demon or ghost varied widely depending on who you asked. Some said it was a Mexican spirit, and others said it was a child who was abused. Earlier tellings of the story seemed to favor the child, which in retrospect makes sense. What kind of Mexican ghost has the name Charlie? Carlos, maybe, but there's no Spanish history in the name Charles. Regardless of the ghost's backstory, it scared a whole lot of people. Most of the movement in the pencils could probably be attributed to gravity in the wind, or the nervous shaking and breathing of whoever set it up, but folks really thought there was a demon in their presence. To double down on the urban legenditude, it was also claimed that Charlie Charlie was a viral marketing scheme. People seem to think that the marketing team behind the movie The Gallows created the challenge to market their movie. Snopes stepped up and did some background research and found that early examples of the challenge predated the movie and its marketing. However, the idea that the Gallows co-opted the viral spookfest and used it smartly to promote their product isn't too far-fetched.
Number 5, 11BX137. A gadget blog named Gadgets with 2 Z's got international viral attention after they received an exceedingly strange, mysterious CD sent to their address. The blank gold CD has a series of letters and numbers written on it, and no other markers denoting what it could be. The contents of the CD when played are very confusing to say the least, strange and downright horrifying. A hooded figure dressed like a bubonic plague doctor, standing menacingly in what looks like a burnt-out, destroyed remnant of a building. He just sorta appears to be standing and communicating in some kind of code. Wandering, posing, revealing a blinking light emanating from the palm of his hand. Its hand, maybe? This thing does kind of have SCP-049 vibes. After about a minute, the hooded figure faces the wall, where he stays for the remainder of the video. But where the video goes from creepy to I might never sleep again levels of horrifying, is that when you run the audio through a spectrogram, a fancy word for a visualization of sound, images begin to appear of tortured bodies and a chilling threat spelling out, "You are already dead." That's the kind of thing you'd love to receive in the mail unmarked. Internet sleuths the net over came together to try and uncover and unmask this nefarious figure in the terrifying video. Now, if it's any comfort for you, the images found in the spectrogram appear to be excerpts from low-rent horror movies, and people found screen captures that matched up pretty well. Speculation ran wild as to what this video could possibly mean. Was there a secret message or a threat behind its cryptic codes? Was it just an advertisement for something? Or just a bored artist trying to get somebody's attention the only way he knew how? Well, eventually, someone did come forward. A man by the name of Parker Warner Wright claims to be the plague doctor in the video, and said the reason for the video was nothing more than an art project to entertain and confuse people. Like most cryptic scary artists, when he was asked about why the video was made, all he had to say was, "I see my work as waves on the oceans. Thanks." Number 4. I feel fantastic. Now, if you're a student in horrifying, unexplained YouTube clips and legends, perhaps you've been unfortunate enough to run into this one before. But if you haven't, I'm sorry. It's been years since I Feel Fantastic first graced the YouTube algorithm, and yet we're still no closer to understanding, uncovering what's going on here. The video is pretty short and sweet, but I doubt you'll actually be able to finish it. It's a mannequin-looking android named Tara, singing her little song for the camera. Now, she's got the chutzpah down pat, but her natural stage presence could use a little bit of work, maybe her tone too, because she kind of sings discordantly and completely terrifying. It sounds like the kind of thing that you would hear a few minutes before you wake up strapped to an ice-cold slab operating table in a dank basement. The robot, we know, was built by John Bergeron, and that's about all we know. He envisioned his beloved Tara as being an android pop sensation, kind of like what I think Grimes might be. And I really don't want to shut down Tara's career before it's blossomed, but she's got some serious hurdles to solve first. The incredibly unsettling nature of the video caused speculators to run wild with theories about what they were seeing. The most extreme ones go so far as to suggest John was a murderer, and Tara was a mannequin wearing the clothes of his victims. Some suggest he's just a very strange man who wanted a singing companion in his home. In all the years since this clip went viral, we've never got a follow-up on this bizarre video, and I doubt we're ever going to get more answers on this one. I wonder if Tara is still out there, if she's still singing proudly, or if she's rotting in a basement somewhere. I just hope she's still practicing, you know? Number 3. Croatian Stalker. Do you ever feel like someone might be watching you? I know I do, quite a lot. Although it could be because someone is watching me right now, you're watching me right now. But I also just mean in my day-to-day. It's spine-chilling to imagine that somebody's following you without you realizing for gosh knows what, and trailing you around, preventing you from feeling safe. This next video, appropriately and concisely titled Croatian Stalking Tape, is a footage of 2 men recording themselves being pursued by a masked stranger. And according to the uploader, this was the last time either of them were ever seen. The video was uploaded not by anyone in the video, but rather a third party who somehow got a hold of it. And the only evidence we can find for it is that he claims it was recorded in 2005 and is a piece of evidence in a missing persons case for these 2 individuals. In the video, we can clearly see the 2 friends initially enjoying a night on the town together when they're apprehended by a very strange man wearing a sack over his head. You know, normal stuff. At first, the sack-clad man appears, well, I don't want to say friendly per se, but he's not outwardly hostile. Just bizarre. Slouching and bending and walking in a way that kind of intones that either it's not a human or it's a human who's had a really long night. The 2 friends then try their best to elude the pursuer, who does not seem keen on letting them go. They try to lose him by making their way to a hotel lobby, where they proceed to call for an elevator to try and find some respite from their stalker, only for the elevator door to open and show them the last thing they could have ever wanted to see, as they are face to face with the sack man and the doors close. If the video uploader is to be believed, this could really be the last thing they ever saw. It was hard to try and find any more information about this video. I did some digging, but I couldn't get any solid answers as to where this came from, who these people were, and if they really went missing. There's some speculation that it could be a very elaborate fake, which is always a possibility. Let me know if anybody's got any intel on this one. Number 2, video dating. Hey, dating is hard. We've all been there. Let me tell you, since that Dahmer show dropped on Netflix, it's not been easy for me. In today's world, it can be so hard to meet that perfect match, especially if you're on the brink of sanity. This video, uploaded and titled Video Dating Tape, was allegedly found in the VCR purchased at a car boot sale, which, if you're not familiar with that term, it's kind of like an English flea market where you sell stuff out of your cars. The VHS is a low-quality clip of someone innocently enough trying to prevent themselves for a video dating service. It starts with a 36-year-old man, Tony, kind of awkwardly explaining what he's all about. You know how they go. We've all been there. Where it starts to get unsettling though is the discordant screaming that we can hear in the background. And the guy in the video seems like he's mentally degrading very fast.
Someone that can
He starts smacking himself in the head in frustration, tripping over his words, and accidentally revealing probably a lot more than he means to. Especially when he starts to say funny, flirty little things like, I'm looking for someone who doesn't mind disappearing for a long time, and cute little sweet nothings like, I'm looking for someone who likes a long walk on the beach, and someone I can spend the rest of their life with. Now the video is almost too perfect, you know? And the only thing that makes you wonder if maybe it's not a fake is just how convincingly creepy this 36-year-old bachelor is acting. If anyone has got some answers for this one, please let me know, because this one really did send a chill down my spine trying to watch it. And hey, if anyone wants, at the end of the video, Tony left his address if you'd like to reach out to him if you like pina coladas getting caught in the rain and want to spend the rest of your life with him. Number 1. Sad Satan. Sad Satan is a deeply mysterious, lost video game, allegedly emanating from the dark web. And it's wrapped in intrigue and controversy and has all the makings of a great classic internet urban legend. The game first came into the mainstream when the owner of the now defunct Obscure Horror Corner YouTube channel was sent a link to this strange game, with the sender saying that they found it on a deep web page where users could post random files. The actual game's contents are deeply disturbing and unsettling. It truly feels like something you were never meant to see. There's not a whole lot of depth to the gameplay. It just features the player wandering down maze after maze of monochromatic hallways. A strange audio plays all around you from all sorts of sources, like an old Swedish number station, disembodied, blood-curdling screams. In some versions of the game, there are enemies that appear to be ghostly children figures standing in the maze with you. Images flash repeatedly through the gameplay, featuring pictures of notorious criminals. Audio from recordings of criminals like Charles Manson can be heard and seen. The game ends rather abruptly. If you run into any of the haunted children in the game, they'll end you and the game will be over. The mystery behind Sad Satan is arguably bigger than the game itself. Where did it come from? To date, no one truly knows who developed it or why or what their intentions even were. After the game became big thanks to the Obscure Horror Corner, there was a drove of interest in the game, leading to sinister double copies being passed around online masquerading as the real one. And these variants would include things like illegal content inside the game or dangerous malware, as users had reported that their computers would act sluggish or even outright shut down irreversibly after downloading the widely released copy. The Obscure Horror channel shut down after Sad Satan started to get attention, leading to a ton of speculation there. Was the original uploader of the video the creator of the game and he was trying to garner some sort of viral reputation for it? Or did he feel some sort of guilt or responsibility for getting this game out into the mainstream? It's been years and we're still no closer to getting any of the answers on this.
Number 5 on this list is Fixed Match Buy-In. Fixed Match Buy-In is a way for people who visit this site to bet on sports matches around the globe that are actually fixed and their outcome has been previously determined. Maybe for some of you this isn't scary, but for me, a guy who literally runs his own YouTube channel / podcast about the Toronto Blue Jays baseball team, my channel's called Blue Jays Today, feel free to check it out, just a mildly shameless plug. But anyways, for me and for sports fans in general, this is some pretty serious stuff. For the longest time, fixed sports games have been something that the public has speculated upon. The authorities who run said sports games have vehemently denied such allegations, but this fixed match buy-in proves that these allegations are real. The Thought Catalog says that the FMBI fixes matches with at least a 2-to-1 payout. It also requires a $20,000 minimum buy-in, with 50% of your winnings going toward the site's service fees, though after the fixed match, the $20,000 buy-in is then returned to your Bitcoin account and everyone wins except for the athletes. Although FMBI cannot prove its authenticity, as doing so would require to reveal transaction details or match information that could jeopardize their network, they claim to be quite busy with weekly matches in several different sports. They say that they're involved in multiple sports, but the one that has the most potential is probably European football. For the longest time, people have believed that the league owners have a say in how things play out and who comes out on top. The nature of the sport makes it one of the easiest ones to tamper with, considering how subjective penalties are and that most matches matches are usually decided by a single goal. As a sports fan, I hate the thought that matches might be fixed, but based on this, might have to come to terms with it. Also, side note, but comment down below if you guys are a sports fan and the team that you support. Would love to hear. Number 4 on this list is cheap swatting service. Swatting, according to Thought Catalog, is the act of obtaining a victim's IP address and then anonymously and falsely reporting a critical incident such as a bomb threat or hostage situation to that location. The SWAT team then arrives on scene, kicks down a few doors, and generally disrupts everyone's day while costing taxpayers thousands of dollars, and it's huge on YouTube right now. Though the affected have extended all the way to politicians and pop stars, most instigators and victims are gamers who get attacked as a result of a bitter online rivalry. Swatting is also a service that you can buy on the deep web through cheap swatting service. CSS offers 3 options for the customer: $5 for a mild situation, $10 for a little worse where they'll bring many people and raid them, and then $20 for the SWAT team to come and they can just do anything. Despite penalties of up to 25 years to life, stiff sentences for the convicted have done little to curb this growing trend. This is because swatters are able to keep risks and subsequently service prices low by relying on simple and difficult to trace methods of police contact. Disposable phones, phone number encryption, and internet call services such as Skype have all proven cheap and invaluable tools for the common swatter. I want to just emphasize what they said about the $20 option there, folks. They can do anything. A SWAT team will literally show up to your home, and if they perceive a threat, you could actually be killed. Any number of things could go wrong with this whole scenario. Not to mention that this is a horrible allocation of resources, and if an incident occurred where we actually did need the SWAT team while someone was swatting, then whoever actually needs them is going to be in serious trouble. This is also the perfect way to frame someone for a crime if you ever did want to do such a thing. Plant some evidence and then call the SWAT team in and bam, they're done. This is way too much power for a standard person to have and seems like a really dangerous way to spend 20 bucks. Number 3 on this list is Atlantic carding. The Thought Catalog writes, once again, roughly 11 million Americans fall victim to credit card theft each year. Atlantic Card isn't helping. AC is a service that sells credit card information, addresses, and social security numbers. The more money you're willing to spend, the better your info. Big spenders can even get access to business accounts and infinite credit cards with no limit. Price ranges between $5 and $80 depending on the depth of information sold. It's reasonable pricing for the potential destruction of a stranger's life. The site boasts a credit card validity rate upward of 95%, anonymous communication via PGP encryption, and untraceable Bitcoin transaction. But keep in mind, if something looks too good to be true, it probably is. Agencies have been known to stage sting operations on the deep web with fake sites, such as 2010's Carter Profit. It's that easy, guys. Just drop a few bucks, and with that, you can steal someone's identity and their credit card and put them in really serious debt. I'm so ignorant in regards to credit card theft and hacking and all the ins and outs of how it works, and I think that honestly makes this a little bit scarier. Like the fact that there's just a whole site where you can buy someone's card for $80 seems kind of ridiculous. What if we get unlucky and the card that they buy happens to be you or me? Granted, they probably look at mine and think to themselves why they'd want such a sad looking thing, but that is a complete, total other story. Just be aware that somebody is just a click away from stealing your entire identity and totally altering your whole life. Number 2 on this list is the cookbook. During my research of the dark web, there were several stories about one site in particular that is especially gruesome and disgusting. It's a site dedicated to cooking, however it doesn't use your conventional ingredients. Rather than how to cook a quality pork roast or a good steak, this site specifically looks on how to cook one thing: women. Yeah, that's right guys, this site is 100% dedicated to cooking females. Metro writes, the most disturbing site we found was a comprehensive guide for cooking women. We're not talking about a short joke here. This page had information on what body types to use for specific cuts, how to prepare these cuts, and how to cook the girl so she lives as long as possible. Now I haven't actually seen exactly what this site is, and I'm honestly glad I haven't witnessed it in person because this is just next levels of sadistic stuff right here. We're talking about a full-on website that resembles something run by the Food Network except for humans. On this site, it said that you can find close to 100 different recipes. I think the scariest part about this is that it isn't a joke site either. This is a fully real site that takes itself seriously. And if the owners of this site take it seriously, then it also means that there are users who take it seriously and probably follow said recipes on a regular basis. It almost seems too sick and twisted to be real, but I'm sad to report that this is an actual thing that you can discover on the dark web. And finally, number 1 on this list is Red Rooms. This entry is truly just so sick, guys. Science and Technology writes, Red Rooms can be essentially classified as video portals. They are hidden pages in which the viewer can watch live a tour of a person and participate in such tour by contributing with ideas or requests. Depending on the money you pay, you can participate to a greater or lesser extent. Payment is made by using cryptocurrencies such as Bitcoin to guarantee anonymity and avoid problems. This is honestly horrible, but the sad thing is this is kind of a tame definition of what actually goes on there. Murder, taking one's own life, horrific sexual things have all been said to go down on this dark portal of the internet. Nowadays, it's even been utilized by some organizations where they'll perform executions on there. Now, there are some beliefs that these Red Rooms are just an internet hoax and they don't actually exist. And frankly, I hope that that's the case, but there have been a lot of stories of people stumbling upon them and witnessing firsthand the type of horrific stuff that goes on. This is a horrible part of the internet and something that I hope that you never need to discover for yourself.